You spent your whole life wanting someone to understand you, to look past the surface, to see what you can't say out loud, to just know. And then one day, someone does. They ask the right question, or say the thing you never heard anyone say, or maybe they just look at you in a way that tells you, I see it. I see you. And what you feel isn't relief. It's panic. A sudden urge to leave, to change the subject, to make a joke, to never see this person again. Your whole body says, get out. Why? Why does the thing you wanted most become the thing that terrifies you? Why does being seen, truly seen, feel less like coming home and more like being caught? There's an answer, and it has to do with something you learned a long time ago, something your body still remembers, even if your mind forgot.
When you were a child, being known was dangerous. You probably don't remember all of it, but your body does. There was a moment, maybe you were 6, maybe 8, when you said something true, not performed, not filtered, just what you actually thought or felt or wanted. Maybe it was an opinion that didn't match the room. Maybe it was an emotion that made someone uncomfortable. Maybe it was a strange interest, a weird question, a part of you that didn't fit the script. And the response wasn't curiosity. It wasn't welcome. It was correction. Don't say that. It was ridicule. Why are you like this? Or worse, it was nothing. A blank stare, a change of subject, as if what you said didn't even register, as if the real you was irrelevant. You learned something that day, not in words, deeper than words. You learned the real parts of me are a problem. You learned safety is in hiding. And so you started building a version of yourself that worked, that got the right responses, that didn't make people uncomfortable or confused or distant. The mask wasn't just protection from the world. It was protection from a specific kind of pain, the pain of being rejected for who you actually are. Think about it. When someone rejects your performance, it stings, but there's a buffer. They don't really know me. They're rejecting a surface, a role. But when someone knows the real thing and rejects that, there's nowhere to hide. No buffer, no excuse, no, they just don't understand. They understood, and they said no.
So you made a deal with yourself, probably without realizing it. If no one really knows me, no one can really reject me. The mask became a shield, not against judgment. You still get judged all the time, but against the kind of judgment that would actually break something inside you. And it worked. For years it worked. You stayed safe, partially known, partially loved, partially connected. Partial felt better than the alternative. But now you're older, and somewhere along the way, the loneliness started to weigh more than the fear. You started wanting, really wanting to be seen. Not the performance, not the curated version, you. And so you hoped, you waited, you looked for someone safe enough. And then someone saw, and instead of relief, you ran.
Here's what no one tells you. The problem isn't that you're afraid of rejection. The problem is that you've never separated rejection of the mask from rejection of you. When someone doesn't like your performance, it's uncomfortable, but survivable, because some part of you knows that wasn't really me. When someone sees the real thing and turns away, that feels like proof. Proof that what you always suspected is true. The real me isn't enough. But here's the twist. You've been running from a verdict that was never actually delivered. Most of the rejection you fear already happened when you were 6 or 8 or 12. And it hurt so much that you built an entire system to make sure it never happened again. The system worked, which means you don't actually know what happens when the real you is seen by someone capable of receiving it. You've been protecting yourself from a danger that might not exist anymore, and the protection itself has become the cage.
Not all rejection is created equal. Picture this. You're at a party. You make a comment, something you thought was funny or interesting. Someone rolls their eyes, maybe makes a face. The conversation moves on without you. It stings for a moment, but by the time you're driving home, it's already fading because some part of you knows that person doesn't know me. They rejected a surface, a moment, a single sentence in a room full of noise. You can absorb that, file it away, move on. Now picture this. You're with someone close, someone you've let in a little, and one night you share something real. Not a take, not an opinion, something underneath. A fear you've never said out loud, a dream that feels embarrassing to want, a part of you that doesn't fit the story you usually tell. And they don't receive it. Maybe they change the subject. Maybe they make a joke to cut the tension. Maybe they just look at you differently for a second, and you catch it. Nothing dramatic, nothing cruel, just a flicker, a door that doesn't open.
And this one doesn't fade on the drive home. This one stays. It stays because it wasn't the mask that got rejected. It was the thing behind the mask. The thing you risked showing precisely because you thought this person might be safe. And now you have evidence. See? This is what happens when I show the real thing. This is why I hide. The pain isn't just the rejection, it's the confirmation. Confirmation of the story you've been telling yourself since you were a child. The real parts of me aren't acceptable. The real me is too much, or too strange, or too broken to be received. One rolled eye at a party won't confirm that story. But one flicker of distance from someone you almost knew, that confirms everything. And so you learn, again, to keep the important parts hidden, to only show what's safe, to stay in the shallow water where rejection can't really reach you. Not because you're weak, because you're smart, because you learned exactly how much the deep water can hurt. The problem is, the shallow water is also where connection can't reach you.
Here's something you've probably never named. When someone starts to really understand you, you sabotage it. Not on purpose, not with a plan. You don't sit down and think, this person is getting too close, I need to destroy this. It's subtler than that. It looks like this. Someone sees you, really sees you, and instead of leaning in, you disappear. You stop texting back as quickly. You cancel plans for reasons that feel valid but aren't. You become slightly less available, slightly more distant, and you can't quite explain why. Or you pick a fight, something small, something that gives you a reason to pull back. See, they did this thing and it bothered me, and maybe this isn't working after all. Or you simply vanish, ghost, let the connection fade without explanation. And when they ask what happened, you don't have a real answer, because you don't fully understand it yourself. You tell yourself a story. They did something wrong. They crossed a line. They weren't who I thought they were. And maybe that's true. Sometimes people do cross lines. But sometimes, and you know this if you're honest, sometimes the only thing they did was get too close.
Close is where you can be hurt. Close is where the mask doesn't work anymore. Close is where if they decide to leave, They won't be leaving a performance. They'll be leaving you. And so your system kicks in. The same system that saved you when you were 7. The same walls, the same distance, the same escape routes. The problem is, the system doesn't know you're not 7 anymore. It doesn't know that you're stronger now, that you could survive a rejection that would have destroyed you back then, that the people in your life now are not the same people who couldn't receive you as a child. The system only knows one thing: close is dangerous. Create distance. And so you do. And then you wonder why you feel so alone, why your relationships stay shallow, why people give up on you. It's not because you're unlovable. It's because every time someone tries to love you, really love you, you hand them a reason to leave. Not because you want them to go, because some part of you would rather choose the loss than wait for it to happen. At least when you push them away, you're in control. At least you saw it coming.
You want deep connection, not small talk, not surface-level friendships where you perform and they perform and everyone goes home still wearing their masks. You want someone to know you, to see the strange, complicated, sometimes broken thing you are, and stay. That's the dream, right? That's what you've been waiting for. But here's the trap. Deep connection requires being known. Being known requires showing yourself, and showing yourself requires risk. The risk that they'll see and decide it's not enough, that you're not enough. There is no way around this. There is no secret path to intimacy that doesn't pass through vulnerability. No back door where you get to be fully loved without ever being fully seen. The math is brutal and simple. The only way to have what you want is to expose yourself to the thing that terrifies you most. And so you're stuck. You want connection, but you want it safe. You want to be known, but only the parts that are easy to accept. You want intimacy, but with a guarantee, a promise that if you show yourself, you won't be rejected. That guarantee doesn't exist. It never existed. So you stay in the middle, half in, half out, close enough to feel something, distant enough to survive if they leave. You have people around you, maybe a lot of people. You're not alone in the obvious sense, but you're alone in the sense that matters, because no one really knows you, not fully, not the underneath. And that's not because you haven't found the right person. It's because every time someone gets close to being the right person, you make sure they can't get all the way in. The loneliness you feel isn't a symptom of not finding your people. It's a symptom of not letting your people find you. The walls work. They protect you from rejection. But walls don't know the difference between keeping pain out and keeping love in. They just keep everything out. And you stay safe, and you stay alone. And you keep waiting for a connection that can't reach you through the walls you built to protect yourself from it. So, what do you do with this? You can't just decide to stop being afraid. The system that protects you is older than your conscious mind. It runs on autopilot. By the time you realize you're running, you've already created distance. But you can learn to see it, and seeing it changes everything. How to know if you're running from intimacy. Notice what happens after moments of vulnerability, not during, after. You share something real with someone. The conversation goes well, maybe even beautifully. They receive you. They don't flinch. And then, the next day, you feel strange, uncomfortable, a little exposed. And suddenly, you're busy. Suddenly, you need space. Suddenly, something about them bothers you, something that didn't bother you before. That's not intuition. That's the system. Here are the signs. You feel uncomfortable when someone knows you too well, even if they've done nothing wrong with that knowledge. You have the urge to disappear after being seen, even when being seen felt good in the moment. You create distance after closeness,
not because something bad happened, because something real happened. You feel safer in relationships where you're partially unknown, where there's still a buffer, where you're not fully exposed. If this is you, you're not broken, you're protected. The problem is the protection is costing you the thing you want most.
The mechanism. You won't turn off the system by deciding to turn it off. It's too fast, too automatic, too deep. But you can do one thing. When the urge to run comes, don't run immediately. Pause, just for a moment, and ask yourself one question. Did this person do something wrong, or did they just get too close? Be honest. If they did something wrong, crossed a boundary, disrespected you, broke trust, then the distance makes sense. Protect yourself. But if the only thing they did was see you, then the fear isn't a warning, it's a signal. A signal that something real is happening, that you're in the place where connection actually lives, the dangerous, vulnerable, terrifying place where you can be hurt and where you can be loved. The fear isn't proof that you should leave. Sometimes it's proof that you should stay. One thing to do. Think of someone you pushed away. Not someone who hurt you, someone who saw you, someone who got close, maybe closer than anyone had in a long time. And then, somehow, the connection faded. You disappeared, or you found a reason, or you just let it die. You don't need to do anything about it right now. Just recognize it for what it was. I ran, not because they did something wrong, because they saw me, and I didn't know how to stay. That recognition is the first step. The second step, when you're ready, is not running next time. You don't have to open up more, you don't have to share deeper, you just have to not close the door.
You spent your whole life wanting to be understood. And when you finally found someone who saw you, you ran. Not because you're a coward, because you learned a long time ago, before you had words for it, that being seen was dangerous, that the real you wasn't safe to show, that hiding was how you survived. And you were right. Back then, you were right. But the armor that saved you at 7 is keeping you alone at 30. The same walls that protected you from rejection are now protecting you from connection. The same door you closed to keep pain out is keeping everything else out too. At some point, you'll have to choose. Stay safe, stay hidden, stay partially known and partially loved and partially connected forever. Or risk being seen fully with everything that means, the terror of rejection, the possibility of loss, and also the only path to the thing you actually want. There's no third option. There's no intimacy without exposure. No being loved for who you are without showing who you are. The door that protects you from the no is the same door that protects you from the yes.